Welcome to today's show, BMNR. We're going to talk about the $50 billion share vote that's coming up versus the 500 million shares they have right now. And we're going to talk about the NAV premium, what that is. People talking about it being below 1. Is it above 1? Are they issuing shares that are in a way that's accretive, meaning helpful for the shareholders, or in a way that's not? And why would they issue more shares if they're sitting on $1 billion of cash? So I want to talk through this in a way that's actually useful for you. I'm going to share with you some data, fact check the data, do your own research on things. This is not tax advice, not financial advice or legal advice. And do your own research, and let's jump into the game right now. So first thing I want to get into is we're going to talk a little bit right now about the NAV premium, and we're going to break down what this is, and then I'm going to show you a chart of where the NAV premium is today based on bitminetracker.io. There's many sources on this. You should fact check it and see which ones are correct for you, but the numbers look pretty close to accurate here. So first, this whole concept of mNAV, it's the conversation of, is the stock trading at a premium to the net asset value of its Ethereum? So when you look at the balance sheet of BMNR, on their balance sheet, they have the majority of their holdings, which is Ethereum. That's why I like and invest in the company, because I believe that Ethereum is the future of the infrastructure of blockchain for companies to build on it. And many are moving right now to build on Ethereum and are building on Ethereum and are live on Ethereum. So I like BMNR for that reason. It has some Bitcoin on its balance sheet, it has some cash on its balance sheet, etc. So the big question is, does the stock trade at a premium to the net asset value of the Ethereum and the holdings on its balance sheet? And me personally, I invested because the goal is for the stock to trade above that. Otherwise, I would just hold Ethereum. Now, with that comes risks, because if I hold BMNR, it's incredibly volatile. It swings up and down. These digital asset treasury companies are extremely volatile. It's why people trade them all the time, because they're volatile. And it's why people also invest in them, because they want the volatility of the upside, but lots of people don't want the volatility of the downside. Who does, right? So let's talk about this concept today and really break it down so everybody understands it, because it's an important part of this entire strategy that BMNR deploys. In fact, it's the primary strategy they deploy, which is to acquire more Ethereum. And are they acquiring in a way that's good for you as a shareholder if you own the shares, or in a way that's not good for you? And that's kind of the debate going on right now. And there's big news coming up about this meeting in Vegas, where there's going to be a vote, and we get to vote on it if you're a shareholder. Should they be allowed to issue or authorized to issue? Because it doesn't mean they're going to issue it, but they want to have the ability to issue $50 billion shares, 50 billion in shares. Okay. And that's a big jump from 500 million. So let's jump in and let's take a quick look at this. And I'm going to show you some tables here on BMNR right now that I think will be useful. So when you look at the holdings here, this is bitminetracker.io, and you look at the stock price. This is about approximately what the stock price closed on, around what the stock price closed at on Friday. So this is 31.45. Okay. Now, and you look at the top left-hand column here. If you look at the ETH holdings are about 12.79 billion in the middle column here for BMNR. If you look at their alchemy goal down here, again, which is an alchemy of 5%, that's what they're going for in the middle column. They're about 68% to the goal. So right now, the ownership of the ETH network for BMNR is about 3.41%. Okay. So they're going for 5%. Now, one of the reasons I own the stock is because I want them to get to 5%. So one of their primary strategies to get there is to issue shares when the stock is trading above the value of the ETH on its balance sheet and the net asset value of its balance sheet. And it's trading above that, which means it's trading at a premium, which means people who own the stock are willing to pay more for the stock than the value on its balance sheet. Okay. So when you see numbers like 1.1, that means it's trading at a 10% premium. When you see numbers like 1.2, it's trading at a 20% premium. When you see 1.3 or 1.35, like it was trading last year, you know, in the middle of the year, it's trading at 35% premium. And that's why one, like me, would own the shares. And now, like on Wednesday, there was, videos floating around on YouTube, and there was concerns of like BMNR is trading below the net asset value. So a 0.95, which would mean it's trading at a discount, which as a shareholder, you're not interested in that happening. You don't want that to happen. And because it's trading below the net asset value of its Ethereum. So in that situation, if it were to stay there forever, you'd be like, well, why would I own BMNR? I would just own Ethereum. The goal is long term. Eventually, when the market gets bullish, that could be in 2026, 2027, 2028. I'm looking at this from a 4-year time horizon at this point because all the old models have died. October, November, December, where we thought there was going to be a big run. I thought there was a big run. It didn't happen. The market was shocked and surprised. So now you zoom out and I look at it from a longer term time horizon. But if you look at these numbers right here and these metrics, it just shows you very simply the ETH price was 3,111. This is about Friday price point. And it shows you what's going on here. And it shows you the ownership of the network, 3.4% they own, and they're going for 5%. And then to the right-hand column, if you go all the way to the right, you see the mNAV. Look all the way to the right hand in the middle. You see the mNAV is 1.03. So that means as of Friday, according to bitminetracker.io, it's trading at 1.03, a little bit above, like 3% premium to the net asset value of its Ethereum and its holdings on its balance sheet. Okay. So when it's above and trading at a premium, that's when you want the company to issue more shares and acquire more ETH. And that's what they've been doing for a long, long time. So understanding this is very important because, you hear on the internet, and we went through this with MSTR. With MSTR, there was conversations for like a year or 2 years. It's like they keep issuing more shares. They keep issuing more shares. They're diluting the shareholders. They're diluting the shareholders. Well, when they're issuing more shares and the stock is trading at a premium, then it's good because they're picking up more ETH per share, or with Strategy's case, more Bitcoin per share, which is the entire primary goal of these companies, to pick up more ETH per share or more Bitcoin per share for the shareholders. So long term, this is accretive for the shareholders because you want more ETH per share or you want more Bitcoin per share. All right, if you own MSTR. And this is the primary game. This is not a new concept. One who's been following MSTR, which we talked about a lot on the show, understands the concept. And in good times, companies like this, digital asset treasury companies, are phenomenal. In bad times, they're terrible. And we're not in a bear per se. If you look at Bitcoin right now, around $90,000, that's not a bear for Bitcoin. If we went into a bear, MSTR would drop even lower and BMNR would drop even lower. So the prices we've seen, like BMNR at $27 recently, BMNR would drop much, much, much lower if that were the case. Okay. So looking at these numbers is important. So now let's get into it. Now, by no means am I bearish long-term on BMNR. I'm still a huge supporter of the stock. I still own the stock. I still hold the stock, and I'm holding it long-term. All right. I also do trade the stock on a daily basis. And so if you want to learn how I'm doing that, you can go check out my book right here and get my book for free. It's down below. You can click the link. I wrote this book, Money Game. It's all about BMNR, MSTR, Ethereum, Bitcoin, the Federal Reserve, traditional assets versus crypto, and my whole analysis and take on this. And there's a video that shows you how I trade. Now, the 2-hour charts are very hot right now. So if you watch them on BMNR, they're extremely reliable on the direction of BMNR is going. So those are charts that I'm paying attention to heavily right now. And they've been very, very accurate. So you can get the trading strategy down below. Now, let's with this concept of the net asset value, or the mNAV, I should say. Okay. So on Wednesday, it was trading below. Okay. And the stock moved way up on Friday. And now it appears that it's trading at a premium to the net asset value of its Ethereum and its balance sheet. Okay. So the conversation, right, is like the dilution panic. And that's what we need to talk about. People are flipping out about issuance, especially if issuance is happening below NAV. And the thing to look at here is, you have to fact check this to see exactly like when they issued the shares of BMNR, and did they do it when the stock was trading at a discount, or did they do it when the stock was trading at a premium? And you would have to go back and check this for the 5-6 months that they've been doing this as a company. Now, and I know there's been concerns because I've seen videos floating around YouTube about this. Now, here's the thing. If you just zoom out in the main and you look at the 5.5 months of what BMNR has been doing, you're going to see the way majority of the time when they've been issuing shares, the stock's been trading at a premium. So, metaphorically, it's kind of like you have somebody who's crushing it in Major League Baseball. Their batting average is 380, and they're killing it week after week after week. And they have like 1 week or 2 weeks that's bad. All right. And now their average, you're like, their average just dropped to zero. It didn't drop to zero. It probably dropped from 380 to 370 or something, So in the main, BMNR has been issuing shares when the stock is trading at a premium, which is accretive for shareholders. And like, if I did not believe in that strategy, I would not own the stock. And that's just my personal viewpoint. You can believe what you want on it. So you have to look at, like, is there a time in December where they did issue shares where it was trading at a discount, which would not be accretive for the shareholders. But even if they did, even if there was a week or 2 weeks, and you look back at the 25 weeks that they've been issuing shares at a premium, would that crash the whole strategy of what they're doing for shareholders? Would it be like, oh my God, BMNR is like doing something so evil right now? No, it wouldn't. In the main, those weeks where they did it, you would want to ask the question, why did they do it? Maybe they have a good reason that they did it, but you'd also have to check exactly when they issued the shares, was the stock trading at a premium or discount? And you would have to have the exact data to do that. So do your own research to find that out. But that's been the conversation that's been going around. Okay. So it doesn't invalidate their entire thesis at all. Okay. You got to judge by what they've been doing over the last 5.5 months. Okay. And they've been issuing shares at a premium, which is why I own the stock. Okay. So where are they issuing relative to NAV? That's the question that you should be asking, like in the long term. And it's been, they've been issuing when the stock's trading at a premium. Is ETH per share rising over time? That's the other question to ask as a shareholder. When they are issuing shares, are you getting more ETH per share? And when they issue at a premium, you are. And again, if they had 2 weeks where they didn't, you're still picking up lots of ETH per share in the majority as a shareholder, because they've been issuing shares at 1.35 when it's trading at a 35% premium. Many times through the course of 2025, the stock was trading at a 30% premium. So overall, what they've been doing is very, very, very good for shareholders in the long term. Okay. So it's not a long-term trend that if they did issue at a discount. And so that brings the question up, also of like, now they have $1 billion of cash that they're sitting on. And so one can ask the question of like, why are they sitting on $1 billion of cash? What are they going to do with that? Well, the idea is, I don't know what they're going to do with it. But when they did issue shares to acquire and put more money on their balance sheet of cash, I would imagine at some point they're going to deploy that cash to go buy more Ethereum, because that's been their strategy. Why they're not doing it now when Ethereum's down, I don't know. Maybe they think Ethereum's going to drop more. I don't know why they're doing that. Okay. But I imagine with the $1 billion in cash that they have, eventually they're going to put it into Ethereum. Okay. Not to mention, when we take a look at the company as they're staking, and they go from a company that's just putting Ethereum on their balance sheet to a company that's staking, when you talk about a company that has right now, if we look again over here, the amount of Ethereum that they hold, right? So you're looking at $12.8 billion worth of Ethereum. So if they were to stake that at a 3% return, like all of it, I'm saying if they were to stake, they'd have like a $470 million. No, sorry, they would have like $370 million at a 3% return of cash flow coming into the company. So that would make the company even stronger, because they're not just acquiring ETH, but they're also staking it. If they were to stake the full amount, it would be, a large amount of cash flow, hundreds of billions of dollars of cash flow coming into the company. And then as their ETH holdings grows, let's say their ETH holdings goes to 5% of the supply. Let's see, their ETH holdings goes up to $20 billion. You're talking about, $600 million of cash flow coming into the company. So when I look at those two things, and why I really am high on BMNR, there's 3 reasons why I'm high on the stock, right? And one is that they are continuing to acquire Ethereum, and that's their primary strategy. 2 is that they're doing it in an accretive way for shareholders, and they have been for a long time. And third is, as I look at them potentially staking that whole amount in the future, there's going to be an incredible amount of cash flow coming into the company, which, seeing that, investors and can't help but say like, wow, this is an incredible company. Look at the cash flow they're bringing into the company as well. Okay. So that's what I believe. And then if you look at the majority belief that I have is if you look at the infrastructure of the blockchain and you believe that that's where finance is going, and you look at the proof that there's so many large institutions right now that have either built something on Ethereum, have their own coin on Ethereum right now, are building on Ethereum. In my prior videos, I've gone through many, many companies that are doing that. So Wall Street is building on the Ethereum blockchain. Wall Street is moving to the blockchain in the main. And the future of the blockchain is going to be huge, huge, huge part of our infrastructure in the financial world. And so that as a long-term viewpoint of why I believe this stock will be just a powerful company in the future, and why I will continue to hold this stock is because of those reasons. And so then that comes to the question of what do you do at this point in terms of your vote? What's the vote coming up where do you want the company to have the right to 50 billion shares? And that's the vote that's coming up on January 15th in Vegas. And this is kind of like the catalyst that people really need to understand, because BMNR has their annual shareholder meeting. I've been getting texts like nonstop of like, vote, 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 right? And it's taking place at the Wynn on January 15th. And the big proposal on the table is a charter amendment to increase authorized shares from 500 million to 50 billion. So that's a big increase. Now, I think the first thing to understand on this is they're not issuing 50 billion shares right now. So it's not a vote to issue the shares. And that's an important distinction. Authorized shares does not equal issue shares. Authorized shares is the legal ceiling of what they could go up to. It's permission, it's the capacity, it's the ammo. It does not mean they dump 50 billion shares in the marketplace tomorrow. But it does mean this: they want the ability to issue shares aggressively in the future without coming back for another vote. So if you believe in the flywheel of what they're doing, if you believe in the alchemy of 5%, when the company's sitting at a 3.4% ETH control of the network, and you want them to get to 5%, which I do, the question is, do you vote yes or no? And then there's talks a couple months ago, if you looked at videos that were made of like, wow, that the pace they're going, they could potentially get to 10% of the network. So they're not going to stop. And if you believe that they're going to be, the management's going to be ethical, if you believe that the management is going to make decisions to issue shares when it's accretive for shareholders and the stock's trading at a premium, and they stick to the strategy of increasing ETH per share, which you want as a shareholder, which I want as a shareholder, if you believe that, then for me, the vote for them to increase the shares or increase the authorization of shares for me is yes. So so that's what you got to look at long term for the stock. And if you believe in the leadership, and I know there's been talk floating around, and I don't know whether it's true or not, that if Tom Lee gets to 4% of the supply, he gets a big bonus of BMNR shares. If he gets to 5% of the supply, he gets a big bonus as well. And that may be the case. And of course, he's looking out for his interests. But at the same time, if he were to get more shares of the stock when he hits 4% of the supply, or more shares of the stock when he hits 5% of the supply, certainly he wouldn't want to be a holder of shares if he was negatively, negatively advancing the company, or that I shouldn't even say that, negatively affecting the company. Like, okay, I'm going to get more shares of the company stock, and then all of a sudden I'm going to crash it. Like, that doesn't make logical sense. So for me, this is just my viewpoint. Do your own research on it, come to your own viewpoint. Whatever you believe is true for you is true for you. But ultimately, it's like, okay, I believe in the strategy of what BMNR is doing. I do believe in the leadership with what Tom Lee's doing. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect on their predictions. Nobody's going to be perfect on everything that they do. But overall, do I believe in the fact that they're going to pick up more Ethereum? Do I believe that they're going to help the shareholders and get more ETH per share for the shareholders? Yes. Do I believe that they're going to deploy a strategy that is accretive for shareholders and they're going to issue shares when the stock's trading at a premium and not a discount? I do believe they're going to do that in the majority. And do I believe that Ethereum and the blockchain is an infrastructure that you can't ignore for the future of the financial world? I believe all of that, which is why I hold the stock. Now, final thoughts on that is that, this stock is extraordinarily volatile. It could go up to 42. Let's not forget it hit 42 in December and it crashed all the way back down to 27 within a couple weeks. So we're talking about moves of 30% are not uncommon in a few weeks. Moves of 50% over months are not uncommon. We saw this back in September where the stock went up to 60 and then it went down to 39. We saw this in October and November where the stock was up to 65 in October, and then it went all the way back down to 25 in the course of a couple months. And this won't be the last time that we see it from my viewpoint. So I believe in the long-term horizon of this. I will continue to hold the stock as long as I believe in the leadership, as long as they stick to the strategy, and as long as I think that the blockchain is going to be a superior force into the future. And I believe all of those things right now. So let's see what happens. Again, none of this is tax advice or financial advice. I do feel like I have a good knowing about what's happening in this marketplace in terms of what I think is going to happen in terms of the future for BMNR and the future for Bitcoin and the future for Ethereum and the future for MSTR. But in the short term, like nobody knows what's going to happen in 2026. And I'm not going to sit here and make any predictions of what I think is going to happen. I'm just going to say that I think long term, these are great assets. Long term, Saylor is a great leader for MSTR. Tom Lee is a great leader for BMNR. And are they perfect? No. Are they always right? No. Do I think they have good strategies? Yes. Do I think they'll make mistakes in the future? Absolutely. Do I think they're learning along the way? Yes. And do I think we're all learning along the way? Yes. I've been in Bitcoin since 2018. And so I've been watching and invested for the last, 7 or 8 years now. And so you learn something new every year and you learn something new every bull cycle. And we saw it in this cycle recently where we all thought in October, November, December it was going to the moon and everybody was shocked, completely shocked. So it's a new era. It's a institutional game at this point. When you look at the buyers of MSTR and BMNR, more and more institutions are getting involved. And we'll see what 2026 has to hold. I hope it's a good year, and we'll see. I think over the 3-4 year period, if you look at a 4-year time horizon, I believe it's absolutely going to be a good year. And we'll see what happens as time shakes out. So if you need any support, you can go grab my book. If you want to support the channel, go subscribe to it. My book's down below. It's a great book. I wrote this about 4 months ago, and it's about MSTR, BMNR, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and also it comes with a trading video on how I trade, because my goal is always to pick up more shares of BMNR and trade it. There's a position of BMNR that I hold long-term, and then there's a position that I just trade on a weekly or daily basis. All right. So I hope you have a tremendous rest of the week. I hope 2026 works out great for everybody. It would be amazing if BMNR had a great 2026. We'll see what happens. It would be amazing if MSTR, Bitcoin, Ethereum rallied. We'll see what happens. We do know that the Fed is pumping a tremendous amount of liquidity into the system right now, like a massive injection that happened recently a couple days ago. So we'll see if that's good for crypto. We're in a new era, new time. We'll see what happens. Have a great new year and talk to you soon.